Hello and welcome to the McDonald's sessions. Today I'm here with Andrew and we're going to talk about his running journey, and then he's going to tell us how he picks his costumes, I guess, each week. And he's actually got 2 races tomorrow. He's going to try to do 2 within the hour, so that'll be awesome to see how that goes tomorrow. But here we go. Hello, I'm here with Andrew, and we are in North Kansas City in a McDonald's that I've never been to. It's really big, and we're almost the only people here.
Almost empty.
Yeah, but all of a sudden all these people are coming, so we're gonna hopefully get this in and not have a big meeting like right there. So, what did you do in your school time? Were you a runner back then? Any kind of athlete, or?
Yeah, not really. Middle school, I didn't do any athletics at all.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely hated doing the mile.
Yeah.
And part of it was just, it was this boring square around the middle school.
Right.
I'm sure by now the sidewalk is all busted up, but yeah, I didn't really enjoy it. It wasn't very coordinated, so I didn't do basketball, which everyone refused to believe later. I'm like, you're so tall. Well, I mean, maybe I could post up and get a rebound, but if you try to get me to aim a basketball at a hoop, you're gonna just waste your time. But I did do choir, and did several like plays or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You know, middle school is kind of limited. I did try track for a total of a season and a partial other season. The partial was the first year of high school, and then actually made it through the sophomore season, but it wasn't comfortable. Something was going on with the length of my legs was not the same at the time, and that was a problem for many years until I finally got it, I guess, resolved by a chiropractor who just kind of pushed and pulled, and turns out my legs weren't different lengths after all. But in my last 2 years of high school, I also did show choir, which was a pretty athletic endeavor, because you're doing all the choreography, sometimes even like not cheer necessarily moves, but like sometimes we would pick up a girl and move them as part of the choreography.
Yeah.
So it was, and it was very time consuming because we were always going to like elementary schools, senior centers, down to the mall, whatever, to perform. So that was really my thing.
Well, that sounds
high school.
That sounds fun, though. I mean, that at least is a good activity. I mean, it's not like you have to be a track star or basketball or anything in high school. As long as you have your thing, I mean, that's good. So, after high school, did you go to college?
Yeah, I went to Kansas State.
Okay.
A little bummed about the Big 12 result last night.
Yep.
That was disappointing. But Coach Tang is amazing, so I'm looking forward to the next few years of seeing where he goes.
Yeah.
And I did do choir my first year, but then I just kind of got disinterested. It wasn't really as engaging for me, I think, because I didn't know the people like I did in high school. So I didn't continue. Got real involved with like Christian organizations on campus, and hung out with people that way.
Yeah. So after college, then, how did you get from Kansas State to running?
Well, that's a big leap.
Well, there's always stuff in between there, but.
Well, so I had my first completely solo, completely independent apartment when I moved to Kansas City area for my first teaching job.
Okay.
And then I got kind of pudgy like more than I could manage. So I would go through phases where I would, like, I bought a bicycle and went out and biked, or I would, I guess you would call it kind of a power walk, just to, you know, get something moving with my body, but never really stuck with anything that long, and kind of, you know, yo-yoed a little bit. And then I think it was early 2000s when I started to get interested in like weightlifting.
Okay.
And especially like the, you know, like high weight, low rep, kind of high intensity stuff.
Right.
And then found out about this kind of a plan for high intensity interval training with running. And, you know, I didn't know how fast I could run, but, you know, started to just like, I would sprint for X seconds or laps or whatever around the indoor track, and then walk, or, you know, walk the curves, sprint the straights, and really started to enjoy it. So I think it was 2010 or 2011 that I decided to train and participate in a 10K when the Great Mall of Olathe was still there.
Yeah.
That's where they did the Patriot Run, which you could just kind of pick whatever distance you wanted. And I about killed myself during the training because I decided, you know, race in September, training July, August.
Mm-hmm.
I decided to wait till almost noon for my long run each time, and wonder, and then, you know, ignore, sorry Mom, don't listen to this part, ignore the sunscreen entirely.
Yeah.
And be out there with my bald head and just about kill myself, you know, like, if you see me twitching on the side of the road, please drag me back to Lifetime so that my wife can claim my body.
Yeah.
But somehow made it to the training. I'd actually worked all day that day and did it at like 5 at night or something. Found out the hard way why men usually should not wear cotton to run long distance. I look down and I'm like, oh, whoops.
I still forget that every once in a while.
So yeah, I have a very reliable product that I use even without the cotton factor.
Yeah.
And then from there.
So was that pretty much your first race then? Was it
That was my first race.
You went straight to the 10K.
Went straight to the 10K. And then kind of, I don't know if I really did anything intentional right after that, but then it would have been 2012. I trained a little bit smarter for running with the cows. And so my first like actual chip timed race was running with the cows.
And did you skip right to the half marathon on that one too?
Skipped right to the half marathon. I think I got like a 2:20-ish.
Yeah.
And, you know, felt really good. Kind of got that runner's high, the euphoria the last couple miles. And then the next couple days felt like I could barely walk. And that was also how I learned the hard way that running shoes expire. They wear out, and if you keep wearing them, you're going to hurt yourself.
Yeah.
Thought I had broken my foot. I borrowed my father-in-law's cane just to be able to walk, and that was not pleasant. So
that first half marathon will really get you. I mean, I remember it really, really hurt, and I kind of think training is for after. Like, you can maybe run a half marathon with a little bit of training, and then recovery is just so important. And that
well, and I went straight to a long weekend trip to the East Coast.
Oh, I bet that was fun.
I wasn't really doing anything anyway.
Yeah.
So being more or less off my feet and sitting in a car was basically my reality for that month there.
So you got your 10K, your half marathon. Were you kind of hooked then, or?
I would say I was more or less hooked at that point.
Okay.
And so I know you want to hear about my costume running journey.
Eventually.
So
I don't know when you get. So how long did it take you to get to that, or did you run?
Yeah, so fall of 2012. I don't even remember how I found out about the opportunity. Like, I don't know if I was on an email list by then or whatever, but I signed up to be a course monitor for what I think it was Waddell and Reed at the time, the Kansas City Marathon.
Okay.
And I was posted down along Roanoke on one of the little islands that's like with all the weird angles of streets, and woke up super early and it was cold and I had my coffee, and I knew a handful of people that I would eventually see, and I was cheering for them, and two things happened that were formative. One is I decided the following year, 2013, would be the year that I turned 40.
Okay.
And I decided I am going to run a full marathon next year. It was like, okay, signed up for anything, but mentally I'm committed to that.
Okay.
But then during the course of the race, and I have no idea which distance they were doing, I think at that point of the race it would have either been half or full, because I think the other distances turn before they get there. But here comes a runner dressed as one of the badminton birdies from the Nelson Atkins lawn. I couldn't even see their face. I'm like, wow, that is commitment. That is incredible. I would have to be crazy to do something like that, but that's really cool.
Yeah.
And I just kind of filed that away. Did my second half marathon the next month. I think it was Pilgrim Pacer. Sunday before Thanksgiving. Dropped my time by like 15 minutes. Was feeling great. And so I get to the Ward Parkway Thanksgiving Run 2012. First 5K ever.
You definitely did it backwards.
No expectations,
Yeah.
no idea what was going on. And I'm like, I looked up on the little chart and I saw, okay, if I did my half marathon at this time, then that should equate to a 5K pace of this. And it was like 7 something. Like, yeah, I can do that. I can do that. What I did not expect was a family fun run event swarming with little kids and people with strollers, and people that were walking, and people in costumes, but I'm like, yeah, whatever. And so, I try to position myself where my pace is supposed to be, but then as we start getting out, I'm like, y'all are walking. There's little kids that aren't, they have the kids bib. They don't even have this race bib. Why are they here? I'm like, man, this is frustrating. I can't get up to pace. And so I saw what some people were doing, that first little stretch along Ward Parkway, and I saw him getting up on the sidewalk. I'm like, oh, I'll do that, and I'll get around him. And I took about 2 steps onto the grass that was sloping up toward the sidewalk, twisted my ankle so hard that I broke my heel bone on the top with an avulsion fracture. And then as I fell, I caught myself with my right arm and cracked the head of my radius.
Oh, wow.
So Thanksgiving 2012 was largely spent in the ER at Truman Hospital. Ate a Snickers bar and then had cold leftovers at like 6 that night. So
wow.
That obviously put a pretty screeching halt to my running plans, but
Yeah.
I used Rock the Parkway that following spring, first time doing that one. Used that as my comeback race, didn't have any time goal, just wanted to get it done. So I think I chose it because it went along part of the same course.
Yeah.
And so when I got to the spot where I'd hurt myself, I just kind of stopped and I'm like, am I allowed to flip it? No, I shouldn't. I don't think I did that, but I definitely was like,
I probably would have.
here I go. never looked back. I don't remember if I did running with the cows that same year or not, but yeah, I didn't do all the physical therapy that I was supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
Always do what your physical therapist tells you to do. Do all of the homework. Do it intensely. And the consequences, I can't straighten my right arm all the way because
that stinks.
I just never got that range of motion back.
Yeah.
But
so when you run by there now, like if you did Rock the Parkway this year, would you still kind of look at that spot?
I don't square up to it anymore. But I'll always remember that spot. I think there's a bus stop sign there.
That's excuse me. I don't know if it's fun, but it's interesting about running is you make memories like all over the place that are just positive, negative. So
remember the places where you almost lose control of your body.
Yeah.
Because there's no porta potty and I mean, guys, we have a little advantage.
Yeah.
But you still have to consider other people on the on the trail or whatever.
There was this one fun run we ran from Brookside, and I drank way too much, so I had to go to the bathroom, and I was like, I'm just gonna go in someone's yard, and somehow there was construction at a house, and there was a porta potty where there should never have been one, and it was the best. It was,
and it wasn't padlocked.
No.
Oh, okay.
I would have just probably went behind.
Those are the ones that I hate. It's like, oh, there's a porta. It's locked.
I probably would have just went behind it, but I don't care.
Yeah, there's one on the trolley trail now. I've used that to bail myself out several times.
That's the bad thing about winter, and the good thing because again, there's usually not as many people around, so you can usually get away with just going on the trail. But then all the bathrooms and the parks and stuff are all locked. So.
Locked or clogged.
Yeah. So, did you run that marathon? I guess we didn't.
I did.
What marathon did you run?
I did the Kansas City.
Okay.
Training for it was a slog. I found a couple people to run with for the 20-mile runs, just to not be out there completely by myself and alone with thoughts for that long. And I did okay. It was a couple seconds under 5 hours, and I was happy with that. I don't remember where I got the idea for it, but I had heard of someone that dedicated each mile of their marathon to kind of a mantra, or I'm running this for so and so or this organization, and so I did that, and that was pretty cool. I had a friend that his son was had what we call medically fragile and had a really significant thing going on, they kept him from being able to swallow at all, and I decided to run mile 20 for his son, and then he actually came out with his family.
Oh, that's cool.
And the kid ran with me for a few blocks, and that was really cool.
Yeah, I mean that's got to be inspiring, and then also probably really cut it up more because you just kind of knew that you had every mile you were
mile,
That's a really good idea.
I tried to I tried to pick it if there was something that an organization or ministry in the area that I knew about, so that I remember there was one that I was just every step, and I was walking almost at that point, but at every step I was Hope Center, Hope Center, Hope Center, just to keep every step going. And
that's a really good idea.
I finished. I couldn't sleep until probably 2 days later, and ate all of the food at Fogo de Chao that night.
Yeah, that's good too.
It was good.
So how many marathons, is that the only marathon? Have you run
I
more
did.
since then?
The following year, exactly 1 year later, but on the Sunday, I did the Columbus, Ohio Marathon.
Okay.
And they are, their title sponsor, beneficiary is the Nationwide Children's Hospital, and that is where I had several of my early surgeries on my cleft palate.
Okay.
So that was, it was meaningful to me. It's where I was born. All my family's there. Actually, more family now than there was then. So part of it went by literally the house where my great grandma lived. little area called German Village. My sister came from Indiana with us. We picked her up on the way, and she had a sign that had a grumpy cat that said, I ran once, it was awful. Okay, sister. It did not go well. I went out too fast. I thought I could maintain a certain pace, and I was doing all right. But yeah, the last half or more was walking and barely being able to move. And I added an hour to my time and just hated the world.
Yeah.
Couldn't even walk upstairs. So I decided that would be my last one, and I have stuck to that commitment.
Okay, that's good.
But I've done plenty of other
half
marathons, lots of 10Ks. I don't race 5Ks for the most part, but I really, I've gotten to the point where I just really enjoy doing them.
Okay, we're back. We're just talking about how you retired from marathons.
Yes.
Probably a smart decision, which everyone that probably runs marathons probably thinks they should do too, but they just can't bring themselves to do.
I had a moment in maybe 2016 or so. I was like, I think I'll do a full marathon again. I started my training plan, which, October race, you're training in July.
Yeah.
And I was training up north by like Staley High School, and it's like, wife, come get me, I'm dying. I'm not doing this. And that was that.
It's really easy to forget how terrible it is.
Yeah. And there's some parts of the summer in Kansas City area that it doesn't matter when you get up.
Yeah.
It's gonna be miserable.
If you do it like at 3 or 4 in the morning, it's still
the dew point does not help.
Yeah.
Ever.
So
that was that.
Sometime after that, you got into the costume. So what was the first one that you did?
I think probably the first time I tried any kind of costume, I'd have to look back. Because I know that last year was my 10th time doing the Westport St. Patrick's Day.
Okay.
And so I actually had a string of costumes to show. But the first one was just like a cotton shirt that I had gotten at Irish Fest a couple years earlier, and like a pair of black and green striped socks. That was my costume. And I was like, yeah, this is kind of fun. I like this. What
part do you like about it? Do you like that? Do you like choosing the costume? Do you like that people are like, hey, that's a good one?
At this point, it's so elaborate that it's like it's clicked so many buttons for me.
Yeah.
But in the first part, it was just like, sometimes the event itself is just everyone, at least is going to wear a hat or beads or whatever. But then when it started to get to the point where even at like a St. Patrick's Day one, people would remember me from the year before and be like, oh, you're the guy that had the music. Mm-hmm. You had the big tall hat or whatever. So I think what kept me going past the just initial was the reactions from people.
Yeah. But
then, I think it was the first time that I did the Heartland 39-3 series. I decided, I think I can pull off a costume for each of these. So for Rock the Parkway, I had a pair of blue tights, an orange shirt, a pair of suspenders that I think have like zebra stripes on them, and then I had a purple wig, and then kind of these like Max Headroom looking shades.
Yeah.
And at that point, I had started to play the music on a little Bluetooth speaker.
Yeah.
And so that was just an 80s soundtrack, pretty easy to pull that one off. I probably got it at like party or what is it? USA Toy. US
Okay.
Toy, which is now their brick and mortar has closed, but they had a little Halloween shop, and I got a Munchkin costume. And so that kind of would eventually become a theme. Like I dress like things that are like abnormally short, and I'm not.
Yeah.
You know this. So I did a Munchkin costume. That one was the first time I ever got hailed on during a race.
It's a little protection. I mean, that's the thing I always wonder about is how you do it in the summer, like, because it's so hot.
I mean, that was April, and you know, you could tell for the first half of it that it's going to rain and it's going to be ugly. But at that point, you're so close to the end that by the time a bus could come get you and take you back, you would just finish anyway. So, and that one was fun. I had a group of ladies that had other Oz costumes that wanted me in their picture. And then for running with the cows, I put like black felt I cut out into cow-shaped spots and just put it on a white shirt that I had. And I made a tutu. I figured out, looked it up online, figured out how to bunch the tulle and put the cow spots on that, a cow hat, and then I found a pair of socks that looked like a Hershey bar that just say chocolate.
Yeah.
And that one ended up several years later was the brochure that you get in your packet for other races. I was like, hey, I know him. That's me.
So do you ever have you run any 5Ks recently where you didn't have a costume? Like, would you feel would you even want to do it if you didn't?
So the first time that I ran a bib number event without a costume was last year at the inaugural Fighting Fentanyl 5K, and it partly it didn't feel right to do something that could come across the wrong way.
Yeah.
And with Cooper having passed in the last year, I felt like it would be really raw, and so I just I wore blue.
Yeah.
That was it. But no, if I'm doing an event that other people are at, I'm gonna have a costume. And I had gotten to that point where any organized race event that I participated in, I was in a costume.
Right.
By the time that COVID started.
Mm-hmm.
But then that crazy second week of March 2020, when everything started to fall apart, I had gone to great lengths to get a leprechaun jumper type thing, or a romp him or whatever they call him.
Yeah.
For the St. Patrick's Day race, I had gone and gotten the bib, and then doggone it, Mayor Lucas can't have any events of over 1,000. Okay, scratch that. 500. Okay, scratch that. Over 100.
That seems like a long time ago, even though it wasn't.
Yeah, the world has changed so much. But I was like, I have the costume. I have my playlist.
Yeah.
I've run this course so many times. I know the course. I'm just going to go out and run it myself. Yeah. And I did it in the afternoon, and it was still raining, and it was fine. But a couple people honked as I was waiting to cross 39th Street or whatever. I was like, yeah, that's kind of cool.
still got it.
I like that, yeah. And so during that next week, no races in sight because everything was just on hold.
Yeah.
And people, it was late March at that point, and it was warm enough that some people were out walking or biking or whatever. I was like, you know what? I have a couple costumes that I haven't actually gotten to wear yet, or that I wouldn't mind wearing again. And so I went out that next week, just all by myself, wore polka dots and played Weird Al polka medleys from every album that he's done, and people were like, "That's funny." And that was the first time that I decided that I got really hooked on the strange, confused looks that some people give me.
Yeah.
Because they're like, "What? Did you lose a bet? What are you doing?"
Especially outside of a race, that would definitely be weird.
Race, yeah. So then the first time that it was back to an actual organized event, I think wasn't until maybe August.
Yeah.
It was almost Labor Day. But by that time, I had continued to do it every week. Started to obtain costumes that I had never worn before.
Mm-hmm.
And, I don't remember when I started the spreadsheet, but I still have the same spreadsheet with all 157 weeks past,
mm-hmm.
and then I have it planned out for almost a year ahead at
Wow.
this point.
Do you have a favorite costume that you've worn?
It's like asking a parent to pick a favorite child. I mean, there's a couple that I probably would not wear again just because they're kind of uncomfortable, but no, there's so many that I just loved wearing.
How about this? Do you have one that you really liked, thought it was great, and it really just didn't work out the way that you thought it was going to?
That's a good question. I would say there's been a couple that have been very niche and almost nerdy.
Yeah.
For me, and no one got it.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
There's times where somebody thinks you're something and you're really something else.
I started keeping a list of the wrong guesses.
Yeah.
That people have, and that is pretty entertaining. I actually last year at Garmin, Kansas City, I was doing the 10K and I was dressed in this green bodysuit with a green wig and then fish on my legs and a net, like a fishing net. And I was supposed to be the fountain that's at 9th and Main. It's called Muse of the Missouri. And I run by, and Mayor Lucas, who was on the mic, was like, "Go Swamp Thing!" Oh, not even close. Not even on the right continent.
That's even worse because he has a microphone.
Yep.
I mean, that's a real. That's so probably your worst
Yeah. They totally announced something that's off the wall.
Yeah.
But no, I would say there's been a couple that are so niche that only I get it, and I just have to accept that I really enjoy it. I love this music. I did the lead character from a Netflix show called Sweet Tooth. It's this hybrid deer and human child that has antlers coming out, and everyone's calling me Rudolph. And I don't think Rudolph was blonde, but whatever. So yeah, there's been a few that only I get, but that's okay.
Yeah. I mean, that's probably more just fun of it too.
Yeah.
So you get to pick whatever you want.
Yep.
You don't have to be a real famous costume. You can.
Well, and when I tell people that I do cosplay running, everyone always goes to anime.
Yeah.
That's what most people associate with cosplay. And I'm like, well, I'm not really into that. So no, I haven't done that, but all these other things.
So you have all your costumes. Do you like that you get recognized at all the races?
Yeah, totally. And I would say when I first started being called out, both my KCcosplayrunner and by my real name by people that I didn't even know.
I don't think I knew your real name.
Yeah. I'm sure there's a lot of people that wouldn't know me if they just saw me in this. But yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to be some influencer and monetize it and do contests where you can get 25% off at X.com. I'm like,
Yeah. That's a lot of work.
Yeah.
I mean, you're already doing a lot of work
It
with
is
your
a lot of work,
costumes, and
yeah.
then you got to do that extra stuff.
yeah, and it's planning the costume, you know, and a lot of times there's DIY. Like for one of my costumes tomorrow, I've got some hot glue and I think probably brads to attach something to me.
Okay.
That, you know, I've got like half a dozen different ways I can attach things to my costume. But then it's also, if it's not a race, then I plan the route, and sometimes I'm able to plan out a route that like draws something. So like I've drawn a sailboat. Last year I drew 3 crosses on the day before Easter, so I skipped the Easter egg run. There's a really cool candy cane course that goes around like Moose Park and
Okay.
along Ward Parkway and down the trolley trail. Done that a couple times. I actually found one that drew like Rudolph pulling a sleigh.
Oh, wow.
Way down in Olathe or South Overland Park somewhere. That one's really fun. So planning the route, and then I've even started to kind of scratch an itch for just toying with graphic design stuff when I make the art that I use to kind of promote it on the social media.
So do you think you're using your creativity to kind of make the run more enjoyable for you? Is
more
that kind of
enjoyable
the
for
reason?
me, yeah.
And you think, and you're also entertaining other people.
Yeah, entertaining people, but then I've also, and it kind of came from my, it's my mom's aunt, so like my great aunt. She's on Facebook. She's, you know, older generation, so uses it in a different way than I would. And sometimes she'll just make a comment that doesn't seem to follow anything. Mm-hmm. But one time she's like, "Are you doing this for charity? I think you should be on Ellen." I was like, "I don't know about the Ellen part, but you know, I think the charity thing actually sounds kind of cool."
Yeah.
So, you know, obviously when we have an organized race, there's going to be at least one, you know, agency or organization that donations go to. I'll make a fundraiser if that's available, but then the ones that I do by myself, I'm just like, you know, what could I connect with the theme for this one? So like a few weeks ago, I was an astronaut, and so I found an organization that promotes science education related to space. I was a sailor, and I donated to one that was for like ocean preservation.
Yeah.
So it's been really cool. I actually don't know how much I raised. I haven't like put it all on one page and added it up. So you know, maybe someday I would form a nonprofit and be more formal about it, but I'm just trying to, you know, put some good back out into the world and let people know how they can help me have fun.
Yeah, I mean, everyone has to kind of do their runs a different way. So I think it's really interesting that this is like the way that you've chosen. Like, definitely different than everyone else I've talked to in that respect.
And I love it when it's like the most mundane, you know, routine race you can imagine, and here I come dressed as something just off the wall.
Yeah. Yeah, so if we're doing it at Corporate Woods or something, I need you to like be extra creative, because that is the most boring route ever.
Yeah. Well, I had to switch it up when we went from Hope on the Hill to KC Hustle Run, but I immediately knew a costume I was going to wear. So.
See, there you go. Already has his costume ready.
I'm like, you hear that, Kyle? I'm good to go.
What is that? October?
Sometime in September.
October, and it's, I don't even know what month it is. March. This will probably come out in April, but still, it's way ahead of time.
I am way ahead.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. is there anything else that you'd like to talk about? I think I've learned a lot more about like how your plan is, and
well, I guess I would say that I really enjoy and have appreciated the running community, especially the last probably year and a half. Kind of went through a breakup with my church. Stop attending a church that I've been at for almost 10 years, and had very few people even be aware of it. People think, oh well, it's COVID, and maybe I just keep missing you at the other service or whatever, and just the pain of that has been alleviated by having a community that has no expectation of how I behave other than to be safe.
Yeah, I think that I probably said this on lots of videos, but the people that you run with are so awesome, and maybe it's just because we have this one goal is to get from the start line to the finish, and everyone does it different. I mean, you can do it,
but there's so many things that are common experience that you don't even have you can just say a couple words and you're like, I know exactly what that is.
And you have people people cheering it. You have all these people cheering it for you, and they don't know who you are, especially you, because you're going to stand out.
I got so many happy birthday wishes at the cookie run.
See,
because I was dressed in my birthday suit.
And you can't get that anywhere else. I mean, we've been sitting here at McDonald's for an hour, and no one has said hi to us or good job, or we have a camera here and no one even cares. It's just weird how you're kind of isolated. But when you're running, you have friends there, so that's really good. So, okay. Well, I'm glad that we got to do this. I'm glad
you're coming all the way up here.
Yeah,
it's a long way.
It is a long ways, but it's fine. I've done races up here and stuff, so it's no big deal. But I'm glad that I got to talk to you. I'm glad I got to hear kind of the why of your costumes. I was always super curious about the reason that you did it.
Now, I will say that eventually I'm going to have to start just reusing mostly and dial it back, but
not yet.
I keep having such great ideas.
Well, some of the ones that you used probably when you were doing your runs by yourself, maybe you could maybe reuse a little bit more.
There's a pretty good cadre of I've done it solo. Could I actually do it in a race?
Yeah.
There is one that I doubt I would ever do in a 5K, and that was my Carl from Up, because trying to carry his walker and the batch of balloons, I think people would hate me. They would be like, all right,
you'd have to start behind.
Now gone too far.
You'd have to start behind the strollers for that one.
The strollers.
Well, it's been great to talk to you. I don't think we've ever talked except for a quick hello.
Hey.
Either I pass you or you pass me in the race. So it's been awesome. So now you have to get me a ton of pictures to put in this, because there's so many that you've had. There's probably a ton that I haven't even seen. So anyway, thank you guys for watching, and I will talk to you next time.
All right.